Hello, my name's Ando and I am an urban beekeeper here in the Toronto area. I've been a beekeeper since 2015. I started the interest in beekeeping many years ago when I was a teenager. My grandfather, who was a beekeeper up in the Muskoka area, who kept hives, he would often sit by his bees, and I got that interest to sit with him and just take it in. You could just sit there and be one together and listen to the hum of the bees. It brought me peace and calmness, and I knew that one day I would like to be a beekeeper just like my grandfather. Moved into a beautiful area in the East York area of Toronto, where there's a ravine on our backyard, and I thought this would be the greatest place to have and keep bees. So I started into this wonderful hobby in 2015. I started off with one hive and progressively moved up to there was at one time I had over 10 hives, and I had so many hives that I actually moved many of them to a rural property. What makes a good beekeeper is that you're always constantly learning, and that you're willing to learn and then also analyze and look at some of the mistakes that you're making. So it's really a very dedicated type of hobby. Each hive can have up to 60,000 bees in one hive box. The life cycle of the bee is approximately 5 weeks. So it's constantly recycling. The hive is recycling. So what I had in the springtime when the queen started laying is a completely different hive that I have now. There's two ways you can get a queen bee. One, you can purchase the queen from a reputable queen supplier, which there are many here in Ontario. You can buy a package of bees with a queen, fertilized queen inside the box that you buy. But the other way many beekeepers do is they let the hive propagate their own queen, which they can do by taking an egg of a small larva, and they will actually create a queen by feeding that little larva royal jelly, and that will provide a stronger local queen. There's a little bit of a stereotype where they think they mix bees with wasps. The bee will fly ever so gently, but a wasp comes at you and it goes back and forth. You can tell right off the difference between what a bee is and a wasp, and lots of people mix this up. The bees also have they sense when you're fearful. You see, I'm not afraid of bees, so I can sit amongst these bees and they know that I'm not a danger to them. They're just coming and going, getting their nectar, coming and going. I'm not a hazard to them. And also I wear light clothing. So if I came in and sat amongst the bees with a dark clothing on, a black shirt or black pants, they sense that I might be like a bear of some kind of animal, and then they might get a little agitated. But these bees that I have are very good disposition. They have a good disposition. They're very gentle. Bees actually survive through the winter, and they do so by clustering together. People might think that bees freeze to death, but they actually don't freeze to death. They actually starve to death. So one mistake a lot of new beekeepers do is they take the honey, too much honey from the bees, but they need that honey as their fuel source, which they will eat throughout the winter and keep that queen protected in the cluster. So they need that honey as their energy source. And if there's no energy source, then they do freeze to death. One hive can produce up to 100 pounds of honey. This summer has been particularly very good for us, and I'm just waiting now to get inside these hives to see, if they've actually turned the nectar into honey, which is capped. And if you take the honey out of the hive and it has too much nectar, that means it has too much water in it, it can end up actually beginning to ferment, and you don't want to be selling fermented honey. People in the neighborhood started asking me about whether I might be able to sell them honey, and so I started a self-serve booth in front of my house, and people come to the booth and they put their money in the box and take their jar of honey with them. The bees don't just give us honey; they're our pollinators, and thanks to all our fruits, these bees pollinate those fruit trees. That's the number one. If you came in close enough, you could see that they're carrying in pollen, and they use that pollen for their food through the winter months. But you can actually collect some of this pollen. Lots of people come to me to ask me whether I have pollen to give them because they have allergies. You know, you can put the pollen, once you've collected it, you can put it on your cereal and your smoothies, and it actually helps a lot of people with their allergies. You also end up with a lot of wax. So I use that, and I render that wax and make like 100% beeswax candles, and also lots of balms. I use it in rubs and balms. And so I've gotten to become quite a popular urban beekeeper here in Toronto, and it's just been a great journey for me.